mythical characters. But the truth behind Thomas and his friends was no children's fantasy. The truth will be horrifying. Attention Capcut Germans in England. That's how Professor came to me. Professor Wilhelm Gangster was born in 1903 in Munich, Germany. A doctor in biology, he became a prominent advisor to the ruling party in the 30s. In 1939, his war escalated. He, his wife Olga, and 4-year-old son Hans fled the country. That's what he wanted people to believe. The factors and experiments were to stomach evil for his own people. In truth, he had become a prominent figure in the government, but as his work progressed, questions and objections had been raised in the higher echelons of the Reich. His work with genetics and DNA was truly pioneering. Security and manipulating was the human genome. What Professor Gangster was more successful in, however, was keeping his history a secret until his death. In an attempt to gain favor among the German hierarchy, Wilhelm Gangster was at the forefront of the government's most fanatical policies. In 1938, he was influential in instigating the infamous Cybernacht, the Night of Sawdust. But as his experiments advanced, he became a much less popular figure and soon feared for his and his family's lives. As soon as he escaped to England, he was banned up here. All locals were nice to him. There was no hostility, but they never chose to live there after war. Following their release, Professor Gangster, Olga, and young Hans chose to remain. After studying under his father, Hans left at the age of 18 and went to university on the mainland, studying biology and engineering, writing several pioneering papers about genetics and the splicing of DNA with mechanical implants. He called it biofusion, as a technique of manipulating genetic material to splice with mechanical attachments. However, much like his father, the British government became more and more concerned with Hans Gangster's proposals, so he was forced to seek financial backing from home. He still left Germany with quite a few bombs, so Hans came back. He survived a while and was some sort of refuge where he could work in peace. Servant of chaos and eccentric was coming over. By 1962, Hans had set up Sonar Research, a small lab near the town of Alsborough. But soon the enterprise began supplying medical equipment and machinery, and quickly grew to become a large complex, comprising its own links to the growing Sonar rail system. No logical links from the town was working there, and Professor Hans took a liking to her. Soon he arrived, and not long after, the town was buzzing with news of her pregnancy. Baby Thomas was born in 1968. Throughout the early years of his life, he would watch the growing railway network with fascination. People gave up on trains. Is that boy one of those video cameras taking the platforms every day? I see minutes of the Thomas. He was friendly everyone. He had simple talk about the same railway. Sandra. His favorite trains were the old steam engines. Steam engines were the main part on the British mainland, but Hans also had a fondness for them, much like his son, and liked to keep them running for our purposes, taking orders from the labs to the growing docks, or to the mainland to be transferred to modern postal express trains. But as the Sonar rail system expanded, it found itself increasingly under supervision, the freaking British Rail Network, and painted a new country. Accepting the meat, and they told me into his ridiculous name to hurt, and started a very incompatible all the time. Because the island is hard and unstable. Market, and government such a cold-hearted as in the can't stand up in volunteers, the proposed and real employers, shut down the branch line and the smaller stations. It was up until the railway rushed away, just when they did took me in line. But the fortunes of the railway were about to take a profitable turn. A stroke of luck for the island that would result from tragedy. And Thomas would follow the railway to be a long time, hopefully capturing trade on his camera. And every 5 pounds coming from his skin, always fails. Unfortunately, he observed as much notice of the same designs. Not being vacant, I've missed it yet. Wait for you 11:45. Still might be 11:45. He must be there again. Come on, always helpful. Hans was mortified. He disappeared from public view and into the arms, locking himself in, not to allow anyone in there. Eventually his father, Wilhelm, came to see him. In a few days, a major laboratory had been locked down, followed by an engine maintenance shed, which was to become off limits to all. All production was shut down, all was maintenance, since he took Professor Gans's student care. More and more equipment was being delivered daily, and no one was around in Shed 17. Questions started being asked on Sodor. Where were the Birches? Would there be no funeral for you and Thomas? And where was the body? The arranged for Thomas to be transferred to a Maryland hospital and be taken to the complex but was never known by rail. All seemed obvious, he was still at work. But if Thomas was there, was he still alive? And what was the purpose of keeping him in the complex? Almost a year after the accident, the doors of Sodor research were reopened. In an open invitation to the people of the island, Thomas rolled out of Shed 17. It took me a moment to realize what it was I was looking at. He looked at me and said, it dawned on me what Hans Hertz and his dad had done. A woman passed out as Thomas' smile levels. I had to run off round the side of the shed. Hey, are you alright, Keith? As news spread across the country, the world's media rushed to Sodor Island. People tried to interview me. I became a bit of a celebrity. I'm crazy on Sodor Island. Questions asked about scientific. It's fair to say I was pretty nervous at times. I know, but I keep happy. Perfect up to one of those first. What do you think when you first came to meet Thomas the Tank Engine? Most of the guys I had to bring on time. The guys said I represented the people of Sodor very well. It's important to show you're confident when people asking you awkward questions. What do you think? The act of listening, the act of humanity, humanity. I don't know. Even some of the questions were difficult. I'm not sure I knew what I was talking about. Was your reaction when you first met me? I can't really form opinions. When you can't string together 2 words, I'm sorry. Maybe you should be on that. The subject now was up with that sometimes. Facing dark forces of working. Yes, have any questions. Behind closed doors, the only question they agreed to answer had been asked repeatedly: would Thomas work on the railway? The response was an emphatic no. Thomas's DNA had been reprogrammed to accept and adapt to the engine structure, using the engine's internal system to maintain his organic functions. But no one could be sure as how much of the engine was mechanical and how much was organic material. Thomas had been able to move around without coaches, but to work on the railway, his engine would need to be fired up and operated by a driver and fireman. Since no one could be sure how much was the engine was Thomas, the pressure caused by the engine could rupture his organs from the inside, and the incredible heat could boil him alive. Professor Hans and his father advised Thomas would never work on the railways. Similarly, the two professors were to refuse many requests by people from around the world who wished to be biofused into engines. There would be areas offering to pay whatever they wanted to be converted into an engine or some other transport. Train enthusiasts too, and people with terminal illnesses were desperate to be made into trains. But for some reason, the purchasers refused. But there would be other interested parties eager to seize on the biofusion goldmine. The independently wealthy Torben Carter staged a hostility at Goldberg, and within weeks were to controlling share in pseudo research. Immediately, the policy of the company changed, and so did the ethics. The medical supply chain was shut down, and men began on mass biofusion experiments and operations. Anyone who could afford it, so handing over their whole fortunes, were turned into engines. But along with the new policy, there would be worse to come. Biofused engines would be allowed, then obliged, to work on the railways. The first one we fired up was James. Didn't have the money some of these people had, so agreed to basically sign his life away if they wanted to experiment further or to take massive risks like this. As usual, the and everything recorded, and kept classified in the study. These recordings show for the first time the real extent of Sir Topham Hatt's experiments. It was horrible watching these engines work on the railways some days. For the tourists wanted to see it, they expected it, and for me, it was work. But with the new engine's increasing work schedule, came more and more accidents. Everyone was forced to have problems. They'd been filming all day for a new TV series that announced that there was no sea, had to pull into miles with scourging and whistle to the kids on the platform. It was heavy. Sadly, this was only the first of an increasing number of incidents. Harold had an obsession with aircraft and appears to become a helicopter. The operation had gone well, but they had to ban him from being allowed to attempt flight. Their experiment, kept secret until now, made the diesel engine was to be the first biofused locomotive used on the railway. We filled him up and everything seemed fine, and things got around. The diesel began to burn the internal organs. Every single organic in the engine was sunburning. I never heard a locomotive scream in pain. Tried rinsing out the fuel tank and water, but then it was too late. Amos's body would be kept under lock and key indefinitely. An unexpected U-turn set up a match would ban fueled engines from being used on the island. Harold was never told where he couldn't fly, but the decision would keep him alive, if only for a little while longer. In fact, unknown to the outside world, there have been many failed biofusion experiments. That kept accidents a secret, and legal disclaimers had to be signed by anyone being biofused, so there could only legal action taken if anything went wrong. This footage shows engines being displayed to tourists during the off-season. Many of these engines were failed biofusion experiments and were too old to work or were already dead. They had to put a stop to that. When accidents happen, they will start asking the same thing. Why Thomas, the first engine, worked so well? Despite all the troubles the other engines had, Sonar Research began selling the technology to other countries in multi-million-pound deals. These countries were of less qualms about the use of fuel engines and even the modern electric trains. Even failed biofuels engines were being displayed publicly in what would become a kind of freak show. To his horror, Professor Hans Gangster saw what this was leading to: slavery of engines, and immediately resigned. His father, Wilhelm, would go one step further. To his house to clean up if the body was taken away. You should have seen it. Sawdust everywhere, but knuckles dead. But such attempts to keep the incidents of Sodor secret were short-lived after a very public accident. One Berlin was about to be Sodor's first 462 configuration engine, much bigger than any other engine at the time. They were terrified of the shot that would make us fire up that huge engine. We were shocked to discover he had insisted on being able to learn on the railway. So, one night after the regular staff had finished for the day, transport, some auxiliary staff and I fired up the engine. As usual, these experiments were filmed. This footage has never been broadcast before. Don't charge for my filmed at all. It might be a bit shaky, it was handheld. At first, Norman complained about the heat. And that turned to please to dousing fire. I no need that. He wanted to see what would happen. The idea to put a lot of work into garden, fancy chances to getting work in, but to a greater opportunity. It was literally completely insane, and the time we were out of the house, it wasn't worth it. Some of them, all I could do was run. I was lucky to get away with some singed clothes. Others weren't so lucky. The fateful few hours following the accident would seal the fate of Sodor Research. Siegfried stopped us trying to put out the fire, insisting that any evidence would fall back on us. He kept repeating, this was all your fault, you knew the dangers, you'll need a little blame. He stopped us calling for ambulances or the fire brigade. They told him, these are injured people here. They're going to die unless we do something. But he kept saying, no one from the outside can come in. No one can see this. Finally, someone suggested we airlift them to hospital. Harold was bound from flying for his own safety, but we thought the risk was worth it. Surely Harold was a nervous experience. Would he have the same reaction when this happened? We all breathed a sigh of relief for all the injured people aboard. But it all went wrong. Harold's engine had worked fine, but what no one realized was most of Harold's lower extremities had permanently fused to his propeller system. As Harold's rotor blades began to spin, vital organs would be drawn into the motor, tearing apart from the inside. No, Alan was not covering it up. The small could be sail morning, the newspaper were in an instant. We were told to close the gates and start clearing up amongst ourselves, with some help. And the TRE was the only 14-0 to the kind. A large engine which has been working on the railway regularly, even from the doors of tourists and the locals. And it was common to the yards, perhaps tiny device. Working mostly at night, people can activate their attention on the corner of batteries. But to report very quietly, and they will come working from the yard the words of the sea. Then one night, the points were several, they were diverted to another shed. Henry and Benjamin been sent to shed number 17, when Thomas had been fused into a tank engine, but had subsequently been declared out of bounds. It was dark, and the sheds all looked same. I unlocked the doors and had them all in. I didn't say what Henry saw, because as soon as he put his head through doors, he bolted and reversed out. Keith watched the shed without seeing what was inside. But Henry had seen it all. And we wouldn't dare talk about that shed, or that judgment. But Henry had decided to speak up and confront Sir Topham Hatt. That night, he arrived at the railway controller's office. A lot was said in there, but there were raised voices at times. Did a shouting match for 10 minutes. Then we left, back to the shed. By pure chance, he was sent back to the same shed as Thomas that night. And in one sentence, he sealed both their fates. And we only said one thing to him: stay away from shed 17. But I'm scared that didn't come for him. They finally came out to house through the night, delivering the fish from the Gangster to the mainland. Across the highest altitude line in the country. The whole line was treacherous at best. The weather was both there, and in the winter, it was a death trap. In 1970, fish had started being delivered by road to the mainland. It was safer and more cost-effective, and the line was declared redundant. Dangerous and unnecessary, it came as a shock to the islanders when it reopened. That fat sharpers always hated Henry. They like his cheerful manner, and clearly are not there. Lifestyle choices when he was a human. Wanted Henry away from the other engines, and kept him in with a death sentence. On the night of February 8th, 1983, Henry had only known the Kipper Road for a week. The following incidents would be made into a book and later recreated in a television series. This is the train that Whalen would call A Friday with Him. Can you believe it being a kid's story? Ghosts and fantasy quite a few red flags. It could be known the planes from the mainland to a side were frozen, and the whole signal should have been set at danger, but snow had forced it down as the train approached the most treacherous part of the line. But noticed to Henry, his driver and firemen, the points had diverted them to the adjoining siding, and right into the path of another train. Henry's driver and fireman had been cleared before the crash. In fact, Alan Barry died from their injuries. Slowly, in snow and pillow bubbles. By midday, the recovery operation was underway. Sir Topham Hatt arrived. Cheer up, Henry, it wasn't your fault. Ice and snow caused the accident. These images from a train spotter's camera were taken the evening before and were successfully covered up by a solo railway board for 10 years. With a railway spike and points looking them. Of course, that disappeared by the time we got there. I'm sending you to crew a fine place for sick engines. We'll deal with problems. They'll give you a new shape and a larger firebox. Yes, that's the time. Only two scrap metal yards in the UK capable of handling and recycling organic material as well as engine parts. Your fewer different engines. judge could sentence Henry to death. Would that be nice? Yes, sir, said Henry doubtfully. The poor man won't see him again. But everything was so nice and neat for that flat. As news got out about Henry's accident, it didn't take long for Thomas to realise Henry had been disposed of because of what he knew. The next evening, Thomas had been put on his own for a night at Capcut station. As his driver and fireman left, under what was left of his own steam, he set off for a solo research conference. He had a small amount of burning fuel in his firebox, but he was mostly moving under his own strength. It took Thomas 3 hours to get to the complex. The effort to get there, nearly killing him. Thomas arrived at midnight, with no one around, to make his way to the shed where he was created. What he found was the answers to his questions, and many others. Since solar research had become producing those vehicles, Ziegler's Audacity, I had Ziegler's biofusion operation level so well, but nearly every operation since had failed. Sadly, Thomas found the reasons inside. Thomas had never been the first operation. He hadn't even been second. What shed number 17 contained was evidence of several attempts to create a tank engine with Thomas's DNA. These had been early tests made by people with no experience of an experiment on this scale. Ill-planned and unprepared, these procedures had used DNA from the human Thomas and had been as much the real Thomas as the tank engine the world had come to know and love. To us, Thomas the tank engine had been the Thomas we all knew as a boy. Part of the family that all Ireland's population had known and respected since William first arrived. In actuality, this tank engine was no more the real Thomas than all the failed creations made over the 12 months before. This Thomas had all the human Thomas's memories and experiences. He had learned what Thomas had learned, known what Thomas had known, but so had all the previous failures. Wilhelm and Hans Gertsen had to learn through trial and error how to bring their Thomas back from the dead. The following experiments had not had the same work put into them, resulting in the freak engines and aircraft that had developed so many problems on Sodor Island and around the world. In Shed 17, Thomas wouldn't discover who he was, but in fact, who he wasn't. past. We stopped asking all the questions we ever asked. We each brought our families back with us. You could work for us, you became our servant in a way. Swaying in the crowds. Our career jobs was able to work. Thomas always thought of us as his friends. Sadly, over time we came to think of him as just really useful.